It's 1967. The boys are having fun in a small pub. We meet the main character, named Chicky, who his father tries to wake up in the morning. At the family table, the son is rebuked again, for fickleness of work, and a rambunctious lifestyle. After serving his time, the Marine has returned home and is working in the trade, so he doesn't consider himself a slacker. The room is filled with the loud crying of his younger sister, Christine. It turns out that their mutual friend, and 8 other guys from the neighborhood, are dead. The family doesn't see the war as a big deal, and they're not going to accept their daughter's position. They believe that politicians always know better than ordinary citizens, but Christine defends her personal interests. The girl does not understand why America needs Vietnam, because many people are dying. A man pulls down an American flag outside a pub, and goes inside, where a group of guys have gathered. The news channels show scenes of wounded and dead soldiers, which annoys the pub director. The military reports do not like the colonel, because they upset the team spirit, and he turns off television. The boys go to the funeral of a partner named Johnny. Chicky announces the sad news, that their mutual friend, Tommy Minogue, has gone missing. He goes around the corner to regain some consciousness and reminisces about moments with his old buddy. Returning home, the boys notice a rally downtown. As they get closer, they realize that the rally commemorates the end of the Vietnam War. Chicky tries to pick up her younger sister from the rally, but she refuses to go home. Christine explains that the residents are doing everything they can to end the military conflict sooner. To their aid, other protesting citizens arrive, and a scuffle ensues. The police, and other protesters, try to ease the situation, and after a while, the guys go home. In the evening, Chicky and his buddy talk about what's going on in the pub. The colonel really wants to be in Vietnam, and treat his guys to a beer. Every veteran has lost friends and loved ones in the war, at which point Chicky suggests the crazy idea of going into the maelstrom of terrible events and bringing the guys a cold beer. The colonel brings a whole bag of beer, as he sponsors Chicky's crazy idea. A short time later, the whole street learns of the former Marines' plans. Families bring pictures, and various notes, to be given to the soldiers. Chicky tries to prove that not all upcoming events are up to him. The buddies realize that the intentions were only empty words. In the evening, the family once again mocks Chicky's grand intentions. The guy is tired of listening to unpleasant words, and decides to leave dinner. At this time, the door is opened by Tommy's mother, who is confident in her son's life. The woman asks to find the boy, and to give him a small amulet cross. The next day, Chicky returns to the office, where he tries to find out about upcoming itineraries to Vietnam. It turns out that warships are reaching the coasts of Vietnam, which pleases the guy enough. There is room on board for a motorman, so Chicky returns home to pack for the important operation. He stacks cans of beer in a large suitcase, covering it with his belongings. Christine cries and tries to talk her brother out of it, but Chicky is determined to keep his promise. 2 months later, the ship docks in the port of Vietnam. Chicky barely convinces the captain to let him go for 3 days. The guy goes in search of his first mate, Collins, who is on the military police force. After contacting the first patrol, he is immediately helped in his search for his buddy. For good help, Chicky rewards the military with several bottles of beer. Upon entering the base, the guy recognizes Collins, and bullies him. Buddy can't believe what he sees, and after a brief surprise, gives his old friend a big hug. In the evening, Chicky treats the guys to a delicious beer, which greatly surprises his fellow soldiers. At that moment, the commander of the military base enters, and after hearing the information, he silently leaves. The man mistakes Chicky for a CIA agent, and anxiously leaves the room. Collins notes the whereabouts of all the buddies. Chicky has only 48 hours for the entire journey, after which he will return to the ship. He plans to hitchhike to his next friend. The military is shocked by his naivete, but believes in Chicky's every frantic idea. In the morning, Collins advises him to just go home, for the war is not over. He has enjoyed his time together, but Collins is worried about his buddy's life and recommends that he not continue on the road. Only journalists are free to drive along the front line, because it is very dangerous for ordinary citizens. After hearing these words, Chicky goes to a small motel where military journalists are staying. On the way to the motel, the guy meets the duty officer of the Vietnam police, who dreams of visiting Oklahoma City. Upon arriving at the pub hotel, Chicky notices strange notes with names pinned to the wall. He strikes up a conversation with the reporter sitting next to him, but a female reporter begins to resent the president's words on television. Chicky asks that the man in high office be respected. But the other reporter joins in the conversation, because he doesn't understand how you can respect a man who constantly lies to his residents about the near victory over Vietnam. The guy is angry, because he tries to explain that it's important for people to get a positive view from the front. For example, Chicky, who sailed 12,000 kilometers, spending more than 2 months just to bring American beer to the troops. He tries to prove to reporters that those left at home absolutely care about the military, and working on the front lines, but he needs to get into Jay's zone to do so. The journalists make fun of the guy's intentions, because not even journalists are allowed into the zone. They explain that only a military helicopter can get into the zone. Chicky goes to the military base, where he asks for his name to be entered on the list of agents flying out to the Zone J. The duty officer and the captain find this behavior suspicious, and similar to a CIA agent. They agree, and send Chicky to the next war zone. Upon arrival, Chicky is already waiting for a military man, who is told by phone that the special agent has arrived, and asked to facilitate his mission. The guy is shocked, but happy to receive such a good welcome from the military. He is taken to lunch, where the greeter asks him to put in a good word for him to get into the CIA. Chicky tries to tell the truth, but the military man has absolutely no faith in strange stories. He sends the guy to the area he wants in a helicopter. Upon landing, Chicky starts looking for Dugan. The commander of the unit, too, begins to think of connections to CIA agents. The guy is urgently called out of the ambush, after which, Dugan, under heavy gunfire, runs to the command post. In the meantime, Chicky hides under a huge tent, hoping to triple the surprise. When Dugan realizes he risked his life for a can of beer, he goes berserk. Chicky tries to make it clear to the guy that he's not doing it for a joke, but to build team spirit. Dugan leads Chicky to his position. The Americans come under heavy fire, after which, Chicky begins to realize that this is no ordinary outing. They make it to the trench, where the guy is shown all the delights of serving in Vietnam. Dugan's comrades are dumbfounded by the act, because he can't be in a closed base. At night, Chicky treats the guys to a beer. Dugan reports the death of their mutual friend. So going to the last of the buddies, there's no point anymore. At night, Dugan's mate tells him that he went home but couldn't fit in, so he came back. In the morning, Chicky is escorted to the helicopter, and one of the guys takes a picture of them. Dugan thanks Chicky for the beer, because it was unreal, and will be remembered by the whole platoon, forever. He asks his friend to go straight back to the ship, and not to wander around occupied Vietnam. The guy climbs into a helicopter, but 2 soldiers and a prisoner of war board the ship with him. They take to the air, where the prisoner is suspended overboard to learn important information. After receiving the information, however, the prisoner is ejected. Chicky looks on in horror, and the man who did this begins to ask strange questions on the rights of a CIA officer. The helicopter lands in a small village. Chicky needs to go to Saigon, and the American rushes to the officer on duty. The unfamiliar on-duty officer offers to take him by car, but the surprised Chicky finds a strange trick in his words. The guy realizes that he is under suspicion, and runs into the jungle. A chase arrives, but Chicky manages to hide under a bush. But a huge centipede crawls out at him. The guy endures while his pursuers, and inspects the bushes. The centipede approached his ear, but he made no sound. Failing to find Chicky, the men leave, and the guy walks quickly. On the way, he sees a wrecked car, and a soldier's cap. He recalls pleading with Tommy not to be afraid of war, and to be loyal to America. Next, he meets a little girl, who is very frightened, but the American does not notice the second girl in the bushes, and, frightened, runs away again. Night falls, and it is pouring rain. A pack of elephants runs out of the woods, and cars appear on the road. A familiar voice emerges, and it turns out to be his neighbor, Kevin McClowan, who is shocked by the encounter. Chicky talks passionately about beer, and the agency at the CIA. After which he asks for a ride to the city airport. The military needs to go to a completely different part of the woods, but they decide to help their friend. The guys take him to a helicopter to Saigon. After which, Chicky treats the guy to a beer. On the flight, Chicky sees the bombardment, and realizes what the elephants were afraid of. At the port, he learns that his ship has long since left. When he meets the man on duty in the street, whom he met on his first day in Vietnam, he finds out where the embassy is located. The Vietnamese intends to visit Oklahoma after the war, so Chicky gives him his address, for he will be glad to see him in America. At the embassy, the guy is told that tomorrow he will be sent on a plane to Manila, where his ship is in port. At night he goes to a bar, and again meets journalists, and enters into a discussion about the purpose of the war. Now he is no longer sure what is going on. He talks about what he has seen in the jungle, and on military bases, showing pictures. The older of the reporters, named Arthur Coates, is impressed enough to buy him a drink. They argue again about the accuracy of the story, and the journalist points to the flyers behind the counter, the names of the dead journalists. The journalist reminds them that the truth is not an insult, but a brutal lie is humiliating. After all, he saw that the real patriots, who were chosen and sent by the country, are howling. It's all the politicians' fault, but if people keep silent, they'll keep sending guys to war. At that moment, shots start to be fired. Arthur and Chicky go out to find out what happened. There is real bloody fighting in the streets. The men rush to the embassy, but end up with enemy soldiers. Cope manages to convince the soldiers that they are ordinary journalists, and they are released. Later, they witness the gruesome deaths of the soldiers. Arthur takes pictures of everything he sees around him, while Chicky tries to escape. The man finds shelter in a dilapidated house. Chicky is worried, because bad things always happen to him. Arthur comforts him, for going to war with a beer without fear of all obstacles is not the worst thing to do. He praises him for his nobility, and his love for the people around him. In the morning, they go outside. The Americans repel the attack, but many are hurt. At that moment, the sky is covered by a large black cloud that rises from an exploded ammunition depot. Chicky is terrified, because his countryman is there. He rushes into the car with Arthur, and they drive to the burning warehouse. The guy doesn't understand why the Vietnamese are blamed if the Americans are doing horrible things here. He sees dead people on the side of the road, and what he sees changes his thinking a lot. The guy finds a friend in the hospital, but McClowan asks him to leave town quickly. He hands Bob a beer, but the warrior doesn't get it. How can beer make up for the horrors of war? Afterwards, Chicky finds out where he can get to Manila from. But he pays attention to the president's words and becomes enraged. Everything the man says is a lie. He calls for Arthur, gets out of here, but he refuses, because he is a journalist. Chicky meets an officer he knows, who doesn't believe the guy isn't a special agent. He gets him on a plane to Manila. Bob informs him that Tommy's body has been found. Chicky flies on the plane with the coffins of the dead Americans. He finally makes it home, where his friends call him to go out to the pub. They are sure the guy has been partying the whole time, but Chicky is in no hurry to disappoint them. The boy goes to Tommy's mother, with the news of his inability to pass on the cross. He cries, and asks for forgiveness, for he is the one who persuaded Tommy to go to war. The woman comforts him, because he helped him to believe in true friendship, and loyalty to his friends. Later, the guy goes to the protest site, and leaves a candle in memory of all the fallen soldiers. He is found by Christine, to whom Chicky gives the last can of beer. Tommy Collins, Ricky Duggan, Kevin McClunny, and Bobby Pappas all came home alive, and pretty much all quit drinking. Chicky graduated from Harvard University's construction school and went to work as a tunnel builder, later rising to director of the firm. The last picture is a photo of friends these days.